like to call this meeting to order. We have the prayer and the pledge by Councilwoman Deidre Ledbetter.
Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, not so much to be understood as to understand, not so much to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in forgiving that we are forgiven. So, dear Lord, grant us the knowledge to make good choices as we travel along life's journey. Let us always be cognizant of who we are and whose we are. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Dan Doyle,
Here.
Councilmember Natalie Lopez,
Present.
Councilmember Marlon Lewis,
Here.
Councilmember David Broussard,
Here.
Councilmember Deidre Ledbetter,
Here.
Councilmember Sherry Guidry,
Present.
Councilmember Dustin Swear.
Here. Public comment. Do we have any comment cards? Seeing no comment cards, that'll be the end of item 1. Madam Clerk, item 2.
Acceptance of the minutes of the February 6, 2018 meeting as published on February 16, 2018.
Motion to accept? Motion by Councilman Lewis,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please vote your machines. Thank you. Item 3.
Persons to address the council. Pastor Zachary Mitchell to address the council on the citywide prayer walk for District 2 and upcoming events.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Is it a good evening for you? I hope?
Yes.
It is a good
Good.
evening.
I'm extremely happy to be with you again, and I'm before you this time not only in an informational posture and position, but also a good report type situation. And I wanted to present to the council members a packet that I pass out now.
Thank you, sir.
Could you open your packet, please, and you will find on the top, and once again, it's this is very brief for me. You'll see the Macedonian call, of which we are employing for people to come over and help us. I need to tell you this, that there are people as far north as Michigan, as far west as the Carolinas, as far west as California, and as far east as the Carolinas, praying for New Iberia. This situation of this city, of what we've been through and what we're dealing with is rising on the national scene, and we thank God for what he's doing and the people that are responding. There are people that have already agreed to come in to our city from the outside. We know that sometimes we've had influence from the outside, but it's been bad influence. Well, we have some good influence coming into our town for the main purpose to see that New Iberia fulfills its purpose for being who it is. There's a call that has gone out in the midst of a lot of them, and they're calling it the New Iberia. So we're encouraged. The second piece in your packet is a piece with the colorful flyer on top, and it just simply contains all of the dates for all-night prayer meetings, and then also the dates for our prayer walks. And then we put a calendar in so that you'll have those events on a calendar from January to June. The next item is going to be our assignments that we have going out to a lot of our pastors and a lot of our leaders. And these are areas where people can help that we're calling out for help. Now, just if something's out of order, just let me know. There is a budget because what we do does cost money, and we thank God for bringing in finances, and we solicit for that help, for resources and finances, but also laborers. Next item is the concerns of District 2. Now, these concerns really focus our prayer, okay? Now, I'm on this one, okay? So everybody stay with me. I'm moving to it quickly because I just want to have maybe about, after I get done, maybe about a minute that I want to speak to your heart, and I'll be out of your way. But we're here. So concerns for District 2, as well as a list of the streets. And let me just pause and say, once again, these concerns are prayer points, not only for our pastors and churches here, but people all over our country that is praying, especially for District 2. Now, when we move to District 3, 4, 5, 6, it will be the same procedure, that we will go to those that we feel that know what's going on in their districts, which is going to be the councilwomen or councilmen know what's happening, and that's where we get these concerns from, okay? And then we do what we call boots on the ground, which is the streets. We go to the streets. In order to impact a problem of this nature, you must get to the grassroots of it. That's why infantry is so honored and infantry is so special. I don't know if any of you have served in that part of our armed services, but boots on the ground is critical. You cannot win a war without it. And so that allows us to do boots on the ground. And then we put a special sheet back there, which is called hot spots. Hot spots. And I think some of you that have already perused our city will recognize some of these hot spots. And listen, we are not afraid of our hot spots. Our hot spots are filled with darkness. Because we serve the Lord Jesus Christ, we're filled with light. The last time I checked, light always dispels darkness. And we must not be afraid of the darkness because we have the light. And then lastly in your packet is going to be that list and talk about prayer walks. And actually it has prayer walks as a title, but it's the prayer points. It's the prayer points that we pray for, and you will see that there are things on the back and the front sheets. Topics are repentance, because we approach God in a way to where our hearts are open to Him, to repent. Not only for our own personal sin, but the sin of those that are even in our bloodline. We repent for those. 2 is children and youth, and I'll say something about that here in just a quick moment. 3 is pray for our city, praying for housing projects in the name of the streets, racism, hopelessness, poverty, financial breakthroughs, the city to come to Christ, and the love of God to flow in and throughout New Iberia. Number 4, again for our city in the boots on the ground effort. We have had what we call all-night prayer sessions because the procedure for each district is on the second Saturday we do a prayer walk. But when the month starts, we immediately start all-night prayer for that district. And we go to the second Saturday and we have prayer walks. One is we never get on the streets without having prayer, never, because I am telling you that this is a serious battle. And so what we do from the prayer walk the second Saturday all the way up to the all-night prayer that is on the last Friday, we have prayer all night. People hid away in that district praying for that district and praying for those points. And then we gather for training on that fourth Saturday for boots on the ground, and then we immediately put that into action. And so number 4 is that boots on the ground. Number 5 is leadership, pastors, businessmen and women. 6 is opposition, because we must understand, I'm really just trying to stay away from the remarks I want to make after I get done with this, but I have to hit this one, is I really think that a lot of people don't understand this situation. And let me just say it to you this way. I said to you the last time I was here, if you call any of what's going on our streets evil, that means you cannot solve it by regular means. Now, whether you believe or not, and whether you think it's working or not, that's where you are. And I'm just telling you straight up, even to this city, that you must understand that it must be addressed. If it's evil, it must be addressed this way. We're not calling and saying that this is the total answer, because we recognize even with the coming on of law enforcement, that the pastors was a force in doing that. But you know as well as I do, all of you have been a force in that. The mayor has been a force in. We are committed to doing our part. We will do our part. That's spiritual. We know that. And so what we are asking and what we are dealing with is allow us to do our part and get on with us. Even if you may not understand, we're given to understanding. Now, we're praying for you if you don't believe. And I'm before you addressing you, and I don't know all of your hearts, but I know that we are coming to your district. Councilman Broussard, I thank you for what you are doing, first of all. Also, Councilman Lewis, I thank you for your part in it, as well as Natalie Lopez. I also want to acknowledge Miss Sherry Guidry, who has really been on the ground with us from last year. Not just this year, but from last year. She was on the ground with us, and she's on the ground with us again. And we look forward to doing that and going forward. Let me just say this. There is a battle that is coming up for our children. It's coming. You best believe. You say, no, Pastor, we're already there. No, I'm telling you, it's coming seriously. I know it's on the mayor's heart to do something in this city for our young people. It's coming, and we need to be ready for it. We see it, we understand it, and we're trying to address it from our part. We must get in this city something to benefit our young people, something that would send them off for an education, but plant something inside of them that they'd come back. Listen, animals are born in a certain place, and they go out to sea. And however long they stay, they come back right where they were born. And you mean to tell me human beings, this can't be planted in human beings? It can. And we need to make our city that handsome, that precious in their hearts, so that they would come back. I want to say to you, and it is critical, and I'm going to take my seat now because I kind of feel like I've been up here long. I'm a pastor. I love to preach. You give me a mic, I'm going to do it. But let me say to you this. It is working. It is working. You need to visit with us when we go to these homes. And these people are weeping over where our city is and crying out and saying, we are so glad that somebody desiring to help us. Now, if you think that we're going in these homes and not mentioning the people that are working with us and helping us, like this city council and the mayor and et cetera, well, no, because it's not just us. We're not in this battle alone. It takes all of us to deal with this. There is coming a day and coming a time that I believe that in this city there is going to be a great shout because of the efforts of all of us together. And all in other places, they're going to say, if they can do it in New Iberia where they were, we can do it in our city. If a sparrow falls to the ground with the knowledge of God knowing it fall, knowing that New Iberia can rise with God's help. Thank you for your attention. I really would love to say a whole lot more, but thank you for the time.
Thank you, Zach.
I'm sorry, questions, really?
Yeah, I think they have a few comments.
Yeah,
You
okay,
get to stay
okay.
a little longer.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Marlon?
Oh, well, that's why I'm frustrated. I'm listening to everything, Rev, and I'm just looking at this District 2, and you got several streets on here that's not in my district.
Okay.
And for me,
You're looking at the hot spots, correct?
yeah, for District 2.
The hot spots for District 2, but there are some spots on there that's not in District 2.
Right, yeah, that's all I want to know. There's a lot, it just,
That correct, but here's the item. Hot spots are connected because now when we go in and deal with one hot spot, guess what they do? Move to the next hot spot.
Yeah,
That's why we're addressing them all.
yeah, no, I
Okay.
understand and I
Okay,
support
okay.
it and everything like
Right,
that.
right.
When I see the names and a few things I see, I'm gonna just be honest with you. I don't agree with a few things I see. on
That's
this
okay.
list.
That's all right.
We may have to talk about it a little later.
That's all right.
We'll
I-
talk about it a little later.
Okay, that's fine. That's
A
fine.
few names, a few, a few businesses on here, a few people's homes on here. I don't.
Okay, that's all right.
I'm not in support of.
I
those-
fully understand.
Of calling those places hot
I
spots.
fully understand. I fully understand. That's not a problem. Not a problem. And we are grateful, for what comes forward to us and what is going on in those areas. We understand that. So that's my answer for that. Any other questions?
Any other comments, questions? Yes.
I'd first like to say thank you for your efforts, Pastor Zach, and I truly will be praying for the. I'm sure this entire council will continue to pray for the intercessory points that you provided with us. Also, too, I'd like to say happy birthday to your sidekick over there. If she would please stand up. She is better known as Missionary to me and you, and she is a firecracker. And when I tell you she pops, and she's full of fire and passion, and she reminds me of myself, and she's truly a force to be reckoned with, and I love her, and she's a great partner in the faith, and I just wanted to say happy birthday to you. Also, too, I just want to let you guys know that I stand with you, and I agree with what you have provided for us for this council, and I'm looking forward to helping you all to conjugate and help our residents to conjugate and fellowship together and take this city by force. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank y'all very much for what y'all did. Appreciate it. All right, Madam Clerk, let's see, where are we? 3B.
Representative with Cycle Zydeco to address the council on the upcoming event on April 5th.
How y'all doing?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for letting me come back and address the council.
Sure.
My name's Scott Schilling with the organization Trail, and we're bringing Cycle Zydeco back to New Iberia April 5th, and we'll be departing on the 6th, and I'm asking for your support, very much like y'all had done last year. So this year we have a few more attendees. We're expecting about 600 cyclists, maybe even more, and we're also honored to have Bernard Hino, who's probably the best cyclist that's ever been. It's pretty much like having Michael Jordan come play pickup basketball at the YMCA. So we're very honored, and we hope that this will bring a lot more European tourists to come to our area and other cyclists. So we have scheduled Chubby Carrier to play for us that evening, and we'll be camping out at City Park and using some of the hotels and some of the B&Bs around town. And that will be, we're looking forward to being back in Iberia again.
We're looking forward to you coming.
I got a question.
Sure.
What time does the actual event kick off for the Cycle Zydeco?
We're expecting
On
the
April 5th.
first cyclist to come in Thursday around 2 o'clock. We're going to have a little function for him as Shadows on the Tesh. The creative market or the or art walk is going to start around 4 o'clock.
Yes.
And then we'll have Chubby Care starting about 5:30, and then they'll be going to local restaurants, eating and enjoying them.
And they're ready for it, and we have a few new ones.
Yes.
So
Quite a
they
few.
actually start cycling on what day?
They start Thursday morning,
Okay,
and this will be the first town that they visit,
okay.
and then we'll be finishing up Sunday, leaving Arnonville and heading back to Lafayette.
I just want to know so that way I'm not on the road trying to ride my bike, and compete.
No, if
you
you're
know?
riding a bike, you ought to come join us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Jeff.
I just wanted to say, the music's great that y'all bring in. We had a great time last year. But to talk to some of these folks who come from all over the country,
Yep.
and hear them talk about the place we live, it'll make you feel good.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I've been very pleased working with, 98% of the people used to be from outside the state of Louisiana. Today we've been growing Louisiana, but, they love coming here. They love South Louisiana culture, and some of them actually even move here after a while.
Yep.
I have some, there was a little write-up in a local magazine. If you don't mind passing this
Sure.
around. Any questions?
Anybody got any questions, comments? Can't thank you enough. It was a great event last year, and we look forward to hosting y'all again.
It's been a great partnership. Thank you very much.
And we'll continue. Thank you. Item 4, Madam Clerk.
Public hearing on resolution declaring intention to issue taxable sewer revenue bonds.
I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing?
Motion by Councilwoman Guidry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do we have any public comment? Hearing, seeing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Motion by Councilwoman Ledbetter. I need a second.
Second to close?
Councilwoman Guidry. Madam Clerk.
Resolutions. Resolution finding and determining that no petition has been filed objecting to the proposed issuance of taxable sewer revenue bonds of the city of New Iberia in an amount not to exceed $3,500,000, and authorizing the officials of the city to proceed with the preparation of the documents required for the issuance of the bonds, and to obtain the approval of the Louisiana State Bond Commission for the issuance of the bonds, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Right. About the same time. Okay, motion by Councilman Swear, second by Councilman Lewis. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, please vote your machine. Great, thank you.
So I'm about to start screaming every time. Unanimous motion.
Really?
Unanimous second.
5B.
Resolution granting the authority to the mayor to sign and submit all necessary documents along with adopting certain policies, plans, and procedures in connection with the 2 fiscal year 2017 community development block grant programs for sewer system improvement projects.
Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Motion by Councilwoman Guidry, thank you. Do I have a second? Councilman Broussard, do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote your machine. Thank y'all. Madam Clerk, 5C.
Resolution authorizing the city to request the Department of Transportation and Development prepare a study to evaluate the installation of a turn-in signal or arrow from Admiral Dahl Drive onto College Park.
Do I have a motion? Councilman Broussard, thank you. Do I have a second? Mayor Pro Tem Dahl. Mr. Broussard, you have some discussion?
I'd like to use your unanimous, this Lopez right here.
Oh,
I hope
I
I
wasn't
get-
gonna take your
I
moment
hope I
from
get
you.
unanimous support on this, because we've been having trouble. And there's gonna be more trouble, and we need help. So I appreciate you putting that letter together.
Not a problem.
And
We're
I
trying to
hope the
help.
citizens have a little spare some time until we get help. 'Cause 4 months a long time. They're just starting to tear that bridge down. So please, anybody has any idea, that's all of our trouble. When we have one trouble, we all stick together. So, thank you.
Not a problem. Any further comments? Well, let's vote our machines and support Mr. Broussard. Thank you. I'll get it off, Mr. Broussard, and keep calling. That's all I can do.
Appreciate it.
All right, 5D.
Resolution authorizing the creation of an internal self-insured liability fund as part of the general fund.
Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Motion by Councilwoman Guidry. Do I have a second?
Motion.
Councilman Broussard. And what this is for the police department, and as we're trying to do something new and different and not do, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's for the,
No, this is for the
insurance.
insurance.
Insurance. Yeah, but it's for the police.
No, the next one is.
No, you jump one.
We jumped one. The self-insured liability fund.
That's not what this is.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is the internal
You start talking
self-insured
about the
liability.
police
Yeah, but they both for the police
endowment,
department.
the
There's two
insurance is
separate
for.
Right. We're on D.
Oh, they're both for the police?
Yeah, they both for the police
Oh,
department.
okay.
Okay, this is a self-insured fund that we are setting up for our police department, okay? And what this does is allow us to put some money aside for small claims so that we can just pay those claims. What we're hoping, and in this year it has panned out, with the money that we have projected, it looks like we will have a savings. So with that savings, we're gonna put it aside. And what that's gonna do is give us a little more flexibility in the future, that once we have a fund set up, other insurance carriers over time will look at us and we'll be able to get other quotes on our other carriers for our quotes. So that's important. But for now, if we can set this up and do something different and pay those small claims out at times, it limits our claims and it will help us with our insurance costs. When you look at projections that John, who's here tonight, did for us, if we don't do this, our insurance costs are going to rise. Well, we said from the beginning we would do something different, and we weren't here to do the same old police department or look at problems the same way. This is being progressive and setting some money aside so that as our costs increase, we get to control some of those cost increase by having this self-insured liability fund. So that's what we're doing, and we're doing it within the budget of the police department. We'll have money this year because we're not going to have that many claims in those first few months. With next year, we'll have to watch, but John has done a good job of shopping our insurance and keeping our costs low to where we will have some additional money every year. We're hoping to put aside into this to make this fund. So if you have any questions that are above me, I'm gonna call John up here, but I'll give it a shot. Yes.
Okay, and just to be clear, this money is gonna be set aside just for claims for the New Iberia Police
All this
Department.
is only a self-insured fund for that.
Yes, sir. And also too, now, does this fund come totally, that we're setting up ourselves, so it's gonna come, the money is gonna come out of the general fund?
The money is gonna come from the revenue that savings that are derived from the police budget.
Okay, okay. And now, how does that work with the actual NIPD operational insurance that we're required to have for the
In
NIPD?
other words, we have all our insurances and we have budgeted, we
Yes,
found
sir.
some savings with that. So
Yes, sir.
we, by shopping it, have some reduced cost. So what we're doing is taking the money that's budgeted, subtracting the cost, and then taking that savings and putting that in this account.
Okay, so the
As long as we
operational
have a
fund.
savings and
Yes,
as long
sir.
as we have money that we can put into that account, that's where it's coming from.
Yes,
It's
sir.
coming from savings during the operation from less claims.
So the operational insurance that we are
That
required to
self-insured
have.
fund, we still have insurance. We still pay in all of our insurance, but this is the other money.
Okay. Thank you,
That's a savings. Yes, sir.
thank you.
Do we have some liability that we don't have coverage for because it's deductible or self-insured amount or something like that? Is that what this is for?
Yeah, or to settle small claims that arise that, our deductible would be higher, or it's a way to thwart off some of those small claims.
So this is kind of before our insurance kicks in.
Yes,
That's what I needed to know.
yes. John, you have something you want to comment on?
Is it okay?
Yeah, sure is. Come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, so what we had talked about was setting up a fund to set aside monies to pay the deductibles. Right now, the city's liability insurance, general liability, auto liability, law enforcement liability that we put in place has a $10,000 deductible. So the monies that are going into this fund are being designated to pay any deductible for any type of liability that we would have a claim for. because of the way that the police department was budgeted over the course of a full year, because the police department isn't going in force until July 1st, we're going to have about 4 to 6 months of premium savings versus budget. So that's some of the seed money to start a claims fund, in addition to us not having any claims this year. There's some monies that's set aside in the budget already to pay claims. I think there's $75,000 set aside in the budget. So for the police department. So if that money's not being used, then that's additional funds that'll be available to put into this claims fund. Now, over the course of a few years, as we build up the volume of that fund, the monies in that fund, we'll be able to save premium dollars on our liability insurance premiums by increasing our deductibles. And we'll have the funds set aside in the deductible, in the fund, to be able to pay those higher deductibles should we need. But over time, as we increase those deductibles, your premiums come down. So ultimately, we're doing this to.
And it gets other companies interested in it.
You're right, and right now there's about 3 carriers that write small deductible municipality programs. Once we get into the $25,000 deductible, maybe $50,000 deductible range, based on the funds we have available, it really opens the marketplace to a multitude of different companies. And when you have more competition, premiums start coming down. So ultimately, that's what we're doing, or recommending.
Sure.
I think this year you explained to why we have the extra funding, because the department will not be fulfilled within these so many months.
Correct.
But every year when we come back and do a budget,
Mhm.
I don't think we're gonna budget a department extra money to put in there if we know, like say last year our insurance would be this, we're not gonna budget more just to
No,
put
but
money
we
in
might
there.
budget money to go into the
But
fund.
so it's no
but
set-
It won't be a set, yeah, in other words, we'll say our insurance is X, so let's put $25,000 into this fund.
But it's not a
as line
set
item.
percentage of what our cost
No.
of the insurance is.
No.
Right, but right now we also.
This year, we got
yeah.
to take
Right.
advantage of that.
Right, and we also, there's, in the police department budget, there's $75,000 set aside for claims expenses.
Right.
Well, if we don't have any claims,
Put it in.
we have the $75,000 available to put in. Next year,
But
if
we
we
have to
budget.
budget for claims, we don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
Right.
So basically, if we get lucky or we're wise and we have less claims, that additional money would be able to.
Yeah, it was
And
no
that's what we're looking
percentage,
for.
that's what
No,
I was
right,
looking
it's not a set amount every
Okay,
year or
that's
anything
what
like
I'm
that,
looking
yeah,
for.
yeah.
So it's kind of floating budget for that. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Further questions?
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we had a motion and a second. Now we just, let's vote our machines. Vote Mr. D. No, I'm picking. I'm picking. That's what they do in Baton Rouge, you know?
He's a stick.
Yeah. Please vote your machines. Thank y'all very much. Madam Clerk, 5E.
Resolution authorizing the creation of an internal New Iberia City Police Department endowment fund as part of the general fund.
Can I have a motion? Motion by
Second.
Councilman Dahl, second by
Me.
was it Councilwoman Ledbetter. And we updated, you have a new resolution because Dan called me and it was, I had to make it clear. If you look, yeah, no, thank you. I mean, when we proposed to do this police, we said from the beginning we would have an endowment fund that would be for raises and benefits. And that's what it was always intended to be. When you read the resolution in your packet, it wasn't clear that it said for raises and benefit. Dan called, asked me about it, I said, man, thank you, you're exactly right. So we did a new resolution that's at your desk, but this is what this endowment is for. It is to go toward raises and benefits for the police department. So with that said,
I got a question.
yes, sir. We did a motion in a second.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Years ago when we, the fire department came to a part in their budget where we couldn't always fund their raises or their benefits and their salaries, so they went past a tax to do that. And that
Right.
tax paid only the increases of the salaries and benefits. Benefits includes retirement, insurance, and everything. Now, I see there's no figure on here.
Mhm.
And looking up, I think the salaries and benefits of the police department, if I did it right, was about $5 million. So if
What?
Mr. Bruce might have done that. Don't time. Don't jump out the window.
It went off, it went off for a loop. Y'all check it out if you don't mind, so we know if this is for real or not. Yeah, we're supposed to get up and leave.
No, they say not to do that until you get the word.
Yeah, let's get the word and make sure that we don't
Stop,
get
drop, and roll, Dan.
That would be funny. All right, now it's funny.
Yeah. You want to take a recess, or do y'all want to proceed?
Dan, do you want to go outside and have recess?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Open the window so I can get some air.
The best is the fire truck's gonna come and then have to rewash itself.
Maybe something.
I know, that's why I said maybe we should take a break.
I suggest a recess.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I think we in recess.
We in recess.
We in recess. Y'all ready to reconvene, if you will? All right.
Okay.
And where were you?
Before Natalie insulted me, let's not continue. Yeah, so I was complaining about with the fire department, how they did it. And if we're looking at a $5 million cost for the salaries, benefits for the police department, I mean, we have to put a figure here. I mean, and normally they're, it's like 2% raise, 2%, say we have 2% minimum increase, then would that be, that's how we would put a figure on here? Because we're
Right.
gonna have to put a figure.
In the
We can't do it just as
I
random.
understand. In the budget that we proposed, we put a maximum of $300,000. We did not tie ourselves if a year that a budget cycle happened that the police department needed something else or there was other issues with it. We didn't say in 1,000,000% stone, but the figure that we used in the budget was $300,000. So if we want to start with that, we can. But let's face facts that this is something we're doing because we want to do it. It is not mandated to have this endowment fund. I want to do it. If something happened in a year that we had to spend 100,000 of it for some emergency, then that year we would put $200,000 in. But I would like to have the goal of $300,000 a year. If we want to tie it to a percentage, that's fine. If we want to put a set amount, we can.
That's one thing I think, Mayor,
I
would be
just
for.
didn't want to tie myself to, I wanted
Yeah.
to keep us at least somewhat flexible because we could have had something in that year that we, was unforeseen.
Well, I would like to make
But
it,
let's have
to
a
make
discussion.
sure that if we're doing it for the salaries and benefits,
That's all
that's the
it's
most
for.
important thing
I agree.
of a department, is that mandated to put that money aside, not to be used for anything else but that. Because if we start taking from that, then what's more important? Then we can't fund the department, we can't hire people because we
Right.
need it. I think
But
that's
day-to-day
very important.
operations of the department is the most important thing.
But I just
I gotta
think-
fight crime.
I don't know, I just think it's something that we need to really make sure that is funded, because we ran into that problem before. I
Well,
want to make
that's-
sure we have the money to
That's why I
fund these
put it in
officers.
there. I think that it is critical to set some money aside. We decide as a council if we want some flexibility.
Yeah.
So that's why we're having a discussion. Yes, Natalie.
I get what Mr. Doyle was saying, but I feel like that's like a catch-22 because we're just starting it. I don't want it to be able to be. I don't think. I mean, okay. In my brain, how I'm thinking of this is the money for the endowment fund is coming from the tax money that can only be used for the police department anyway. So we can't take it out and move it to disaster anywhere else. It would only be able to be taken out and put into another line item for the police department.
Well, the police budget is a combination of the half-cent tax and the money that's freed up from the 1960 tax.
Right.
So it is a combination of both that funds the police department.
In the bond.
Yeah.
And the bond.
And the bond furnishes all the equipment.
Right. Well, so then you start playing music.
But the bond's not doing the year to year. This is for year to year. The bond only does one thing, which is buy the equipment.
I mean, I'm agreeable to it not being able to be taken out to go to any other department.
I am too.
But I think if something happens and a car bombs and we need an emergency, 20,000 for that.
You
I
can't
don't
take it
know.
out once you put it in, but it's once you budget a dollar amount, that's what we have to put in every year.
No, I am not in agreement of putting a certain amount in there every year because every year we don't know what the tax is going to be. So if we say we're going to put 400,000 in every year, and then in 2 years taxes are down 400,000, then what they going to do? They're going to cut. They're going to lay off 2 people so we can put money in the endowment fund.
Right. Well, that's why we have
You know,
this discussion.
I don't-
That's why I don't have a dollar amount.
That's
on it,
not
so we can have
practical
this
to me.
discussion.
Like I'm agreeable. It's my stance at this moment. I mean, I know a lot of other people have to talk,
Yeah.
but that the money cannot go into any other department
I agree.
outside of that. I don't think we should put a certain amount. We should have to put in every year. You know, I think that's why the council's here to pay attention to the budget every year. You know, I think that maybe after 5, 6 years we have some, if we see some extreme stability in the budget, right. But right now, I just feel like to put a number on anything just isn't too practical. But I don't. The money doesn't need to be going to any other department.
I agree.
So that's kind of where I am because if I love the fact that we're doing this because I'm all about preventative
It's being
maintenance. I think
proactive.
that's a huge problem with government. You don't have preventative maintenance, and you know how many times the last administration something breaks and we're like, they're like, well, what do y'all want to do? It's like, well, what do you want to do? Where's the money? Where's the what? Oh. How old are the other 3 trucks? Oh, they're all from 1984. Oh, okay. Okay. You know, like I'm about the preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Salaries and benefits. I don't know. I think it should be their emergency, along with as their emergency fund. I believe salaries and benefits and also an emergency fund. Because what's going to happen is that they have an emergency and we take it out of the general fund, the rest of the town is going to have a fit and they're going to be like, wait, I thought we did all this and passed this tax for y'all to have the money to handle
The
this.
tax pays for about
I understand that,
a
but
third
I'm
of
just
the
saying.
department. Just remember that.
I
The new
understand.
tax pays $3 million a year. The department 7.5. I don't ever want to paint the picture that the tax is paid for the bulk of the department because it's still not.
I
But-
understand.
I know where you're coming from.
And
Okay.
we said we were putting 300 in it this
Right.
year,
Right.
but not necessarily.
No, and I
the
mean, we
next-
could
next-
set that the max is 300, and that at the end of each budget cycle, we could decide what that figure would be based on how healthy we were at the time. I mean, we have some options. It's by resolution. I'll ask my attorney, but if the council makes a resolution, it can always amend a resolution. That's why it's not an ordinance. So we have some flexibility.
Yeah, I just think it's too soon because I mean it's gonna take us at least 3 years just to see
Right.
what the
But-
rate, what our percentage
But
is
I
that
knew
we're
I'd have a
going up.
savings this year,
And-
so I want to put something in
No,
there.
I'm in agreement with all that. But what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, it's like we don't to put
I
a number on it
understand.
now. We don't know what the increase is going
Right.
to be
Right.
in 18, 19. It's going to take a good 3-year pattern to get at least a decent average of what we need to be pumping in there every year.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay, well, no, that's why we're doing this. We're going to come to some consensus like we always do, but everybody's opinion counts. So who is next?
Justin,
Justin.
and then me, and then her.
Okay.
Thank you. You want to speak to me?
No, sir.
I kind of agree with y'all getting after. I don't agree with the fact that when Mr. Dahl mentioned about passing the tax in the fire department. I hope to God we don't have to pass another tax in this town anytime soon.
You and me both.
You know, but so basically what we're trying to do, the endowment fund, can we come back annually, every year? I get the whole point about the mandating a certain dollar amount every year, but like she was saying, based on the tax revenue that we bring in or we don't bring in, do we come back yearly
We could.
and come to the council?
We
and say,
could.
okay,
You know, that's
this
an
is the
option
amount
at
that we're
budget.
gonna put in.
We could at budget
Based
every
on
year.
based on what we're seeing as far as numbers go. I get what he's saying about a dollar amount. You want to see a dollar amount there, but not a, every year the same. It's not gonna be the same amount every year. Am I
And
correct?
if it can't afford to be the same amount every year, then, we can adjust it. We set a target at the 300, but that doesn't mean it has to be that. And you know, all of y'all are right a little bit. In other words, we're gonna pull from everybody and put this together. But the flexibility of it is something that's important because we do know our taxes aren't the same every year. Our economy's not the same every year. But by resolution, if I'm right, Jeff, we could do a resolution with a dollar amount and amend it every year, or set it in the resolution that it would be amended at budget time.
You could, are we just saying this is gonna be a budget
starting a
item
fund.
at this point?
We're
Right.
starting a fund to do this, and it will be a budget item, and every year, as we review our budget, money will be allocated, but we wanted to set the fund up from day one, before the police went hot. From day one, we have this fund.
So what we're talking about doing here is setting up the fund.
Yes.
But not allocating money yet.
Yes, we could wait and do it in budget time.
Yeah,
But that's how it would be, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's how it is
So-
today, right now.
so no money is being allocated tonight.
Right.
Tonight, we're just setting up the fund and saying,
Right.
this is what the purpose is, this is what the restriction is. When later on you put money into it, that's what this is gonna apply to.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, Dustin, finish?
So how long are we waiting until we start putting money? Well, I don't understand.
Well, since we haven't got one tax check in yet, it's gonna be a little while.
I wanna make it clear.
Basically, at the end of the fiscal year, before we go to our next budget, that's when we will do.
That's what I'm.
So when we go to our budget cycle this year, we go hot for department in July, we get our first tax check in April, I think.
Okay.
So when we go to our new budget, when we do our new budget, September, October, when we, October, when we go to our new budget, we'll look at the dollars we collected and then we can make that dollar amount then. This is really just to set it up. Anything else? Okay. Councilwoman Gibbs?
Oh. By the time we got to me, I think we kind of answered
Well, you
all
never
my
know.
questions.
You might have another idea.
No, I don't know. Okay, let's go back to the 300,000 again. How did we come up with that amount?
I
Because
came
I know
up with that.
our
That
sales tax
was-
are down right now, and I was thinking about
from
the
our
fiscal
budget
year.
of the amount of money. It was kind of a maximum, but from our budget,
Yes,
the
sir.
amount of money that I felt that did some good, and really, if you're going to set an endowment up, I want to build it up. So from our budget of what we would collect in taxes and use from the 1960 tax, run the whole budget of the police department, do everything we had to do. That's what
And
I
that's how you.
felt-
That's how you got the
That's how I got the
$300,000.
300. That's what I felt we could afford to put in.
Okay, so I agree with Councilwoman Natalie. I also agree with our attorney and Councilman Swear. So I totally agree of setting this up. I think it's necessary as well. It's just that as far as the amount is concerned, like I said, maybe after our fiscal year, then we can set an amount, because I don't see us, especially if sales tax are down
And they are.
and whatever, so.
Okay.
That's just my input. By the time they got to me, they didn't already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but sometimes that doesn't happen, so you
Yeah.
never know. Sometimes the best is last.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes.
Councilwoman Levy?
When I'm thinking about an endowment fund, I'm thinking that it's not necessarily part of the budget. Because I'm thinking about colleges and all have an endowment fund, and they raise money to to purchase certain things,
Right.
to do certain
Oh,
things.
someone
with
wants to give us some
scholarships
money,
and all.
we'll take it,
That's
but,
what that
this
kind
is
of
not
thing.
the
So
same thing.
Yeah.
it wouldn't necessarily just have to be from the taxes going into this endowment. It could be other funds coming
Yeah,
into
as
the
a
endowment
government
too.
body, that's all we have. But privately, if somebody wants to make a
Well, that's
donation,
what I'm
hey,
talking
that would be
about.
awesome. Yeah, that would be great.
And it shouldn't, I don't think, be a certain amount, because it needs to be flexible. Endowments are normally, whatever you get in that year.
Yes. Okay. Good. So we've. Okay, and then. Yes.
I have no problem with looking at the budget year and then make an amount what it is that year.
Okay.
But I think if we can, at the end of budget, decide this is gonna be used for salaries and benefits, it should be used for salaries and benefits, and not
That's
saying.
all it can be used for.
No, but.
The way we have it written.
Yeah, but we talk about making it fun where, we might need a new car, or we might need new uniforms. But I think if we don't put an amount to it, and at every budget, put so much aside for it, it should be dedicated for that, even though the amount might be 100,000.
Well, that's the only way to build up an endowment.
Yeah,
In other words,
but
the point of
I
an
don't think
endowment
it should
is
be
to-
for multiple of things.
Okay.
I mean, that's just my
Okay.
opinion.
Well, what's before us is for salaries and benefits.
Right,
And
and
that's, if we have to do something else, then maybe it's gonna require another fund, but that's fine.
I
If
mean,
we
I
being
was just,
proactive.
now that we're just talking about,
Well,
Mike,
I
you
got
get to something
She's
a,
got a good
I have a
idea.
response though. I have a response to that.
Okay?
Because I'm gonna play devil's advocate, Dan, and I think you
Got
might
a
hear
debate
me a little
going.
bit.
I hear you all the
remember
time.
when we needed money for other things, and the fire department had all this money in the salary and benefit fund, and it's like, oh, well, we need a new truck, or we need this, and we're like, well, we don't have any money in the general fund, and they're like, well, our fund says we can only use it for salary and benefits, and we're like, so what do you do? And everybody's mad because fire department is sitting on all kind of money and they need stuff, but they can't use their money to get it. So we're having to steal from the money that goes to Public Works and Parks and Rec to handle these things. What about if we did salaries and benefits and emergency purchases as approved by the council, 2/3 vote?
I'd like that emergency fund to be a separate account.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
salary and
separate.
look, thank goodness we did that. You know,
Yeah,
you
Because
were
that's
here.
keeping the
That's
fire
keeping the department
alive.
off our back.
Rick
I-
Boyd
Keep
did.
it
I know,
alive.
but
They're
then-
on our back. They're
No, I mean, for the
they're
salaries and
wonderful
increases.
assets to our community.
They are.
But it, thank you, Dan.
They just took care of the fire alarm.
They did. But they keep that's keeping the fire department healthy.
No, I
That's
just think.
the point of an endowment, is to keep that department healthy, and it should have a decent fund balance from my perspective to remain healthy. But I like the idea of an emergency fund, so maybe we do that as a separate fund.
Yes.
I would
You know?
rather see that.
I like the idea, and that way we're setting up. Look, we might end up with 5 funds by the time we're done, but we're being proactive. We're actually thinking. We're trying to put money aside for the future, which government rarely does. I mean, I thank y'all, because this is something that's needed. And if we had those funds in place now, we'd have some pots to deal with.
Are their salaries and benefits mandated like the rest of the city to have to go up 2%?
Yes,
Yeah.
Right.
they are. They are.
Okay, so
And those men and women deserve that.
no, they do. But then how did we have so much extra in the fire department?
We don't.
We
If
did
if
at one point. We
project
did
the
at one
fire-
point. Dan knows
but
what I'm
if
talking
you
about.
project the
I know
fire
what you're talking
department
about.
Dan
in the
knows what I'm talking
future,
about. At one point, we had a lot of excess
But-
in that
but
account, and people were
you
very
can-
frustrated
You
about
can call
it.
the chief up and he's on a budget. I mean,
But the reason they had
we
back
don't-
then, the increases was not as much. The increases are much more, 15 years later.
I mean, when you
and it was a smart
when your
thing
retirement
to do.
goes up and your insurance goes up, it was a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
But they don't go up the same amount every year. And so when you get hit that they really go up, you burn up a lot of that money. That's the reason that it's there. It's insurance. It's kind of like how
Yeah.
we're trying to be proactive with all these other accounts. Because you can zap it quicker than you think.
But we can control the funding every budget.
Yeah, we can. And I
On
think
this.
that's the ticket.
No, I mean, I'm in agreement with that.
I
But
have no
Okay.
problem with that, But I think it should be for
I don't
salaries
think it
and
should be
benefits.
plush.
No.
I think it should be as
Well-
close as it can, and then we'll have an emergency fund. And if they need more, we can always
Okay.
pull it out the emergency
All right.
fund.
And we can vote
Then
on
I'm
that.
going to come back in the next meeting and
Does
tell
that
you that
make-
we're setting
am I
up an
making
emergency
sense?
fund.
That's right.
Am I making sense?
You are
Yes.
total. I like your idea.
Resolution for
We're gonna
emergency
do-
fund.
I just
We'll
have
call
a
it the
comment
Nally
on the
Emergency
emergency
Fund.
That's
fund.
good.
Yes.
If you had this extra money for an emergency fund, to put in, why wouldn't you just buy what you need to buy then? Why would you have to put it in a fund?
Well-
Why would you need to buy?
Like a Christmas
And
Maybe
then
so,
you
but
have-
if you don't save for the
That's
Christmas
but
club, you
that's
can't
what-
buy the
that-
Christmas
My
present.
mindset is coming from that because when I got here, I was like, why don't they just buy what they need to buy when they need to buy it?
Because we
But-
don't always have the funds, we don't always have the money, and we don't always know what our taxes are gonna do. So, like I said, no Christmas club, no Christmas present.
I just don't want to see too much. I just don't want to see too. What my point is, I just don't want
got
to
that
see too
from
much
Kevin.
excess in it, and they need.
No, but we can control that at budget.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is you're saying you don't want it to be able to be taken out and put back into the police fund at all.
If we have 500,000 in that fund, and at budget time we say, we're not putting no money this year in that fund, we have enough. We have that opportunity to do it. But
Okay.
I don't wanna say we could take out 400,000, buy a fleet of cars, then next year we need 127,000, then we get
And
short.
my thing is, I just don't want it getting
No,
too
no,
plush.
that's the normal way
I don't
government
want it
operates.
getting too
No,
plush.
I agree. But we can control that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's gonna be up to
But at the
every
same
council
time,
every year to pay attention to that.
What
That's
I would
right.
like to do, I'll have Kevin run some projections, and I'll get with my insurance
Mm-hmm.
people, and we'll run some projections and understand what might happen and where we might be. When you
can
look
do
at
that.
how retirement costs
Yeah.
should increase and insurance should increase, you might say, okay, now I see why we need to have that a little more plush. So, but we have that opportunity.
No,
And
no,
every year,
you're right.
we're being responsible, by having these
But
opportunities.
we did the projections, what it would cost us 10 years
I
when we
know
had the
you
police
did.
department, so I think.
And that's why we're taking
I
steps to
think-
do things differently.
That's why I'm supporting it.
We're all good. Government at work. Okay, any more discussion? This was some good discussion. Thank you. Please vote your machines. Awesome. And the Natalie Emergency Fund will be coming to you soon. Madam Clerk, 5F.
Resolution awarding bid to M. Matt Dermal LLC for the City of New Iberia Jefferson Terrace Drainage Improvement Project.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Whoa, thank you. Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do we have a second?
I second.
Councilman Lewis, do we have any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes,
Mayor.
sir.
This money all is coming from our,
Drainage fund.
Drainage fund.
Yes, sir.
We have no bonds, no grants.
No,
to
sir.
This is all from drainage fund.
Yes, sir. And you remember we cut the project in half?
Yep.
Originally, it was a much larger project when we all got here in this term, and we cut the project down to see some results from phase one.
And Mayor, do you know how much we have, I didn't bring my budget, how much we have left in the drainage fund if taking these funds out?
No, but
No,
I can
okay.
put our finance director
Okay.
on the spot, and he might know.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah, that's a good
I
question.
forgot. Okay. I know it was a big chunk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
One more question, Mayor.
All right.
They had no alternates. It was all just one base bid.
Yes.
And can you explain real quick that we going up to the railroad, not under the railroad because of the cost? You remember we talked about it last meeting?
Yeah, we've worked long and hard on that. The railroad had I was not aware of it, had an insurance requirement that would have cost us a couple of $100,000 a year forever to go under the railroad track with a larger pipe. So we found an existing 30-inch pipe, so what we're gonna end up doing is going up to that pipe with 54-inch jars, just in case we can find a way or negotiate with the railroad company at some future date, or figure out how they might do it elsewhere, and go back to them. But for now, because of those insurance costs that were unforeseen and that would never go away, we are going to utilize the 30-inch pipe that goes to the bayou now. So we're gonna make a change with this, but the correct thing to do is to bid apples for apples and to take the base bid exactly how it was and see who won and who lost. I mean, unfortunately, there's always a little bid. It's very close, and they turned in some really good bids. But that way, we're taking the low bidder, and then we'll make some adjustments, and that's how we're gonna get under the railroad track, is through that existing pipe.
So Mayor, there's no possible way they can put another small pipe next to that versus one
You
big
can't
pipe?
touch anything, because when you go and put a pipe in and bore under the railroad, that's when they want this very expensive insurance forever, and we just can't afford to do that.
Thank you.
Now, if I find some other community has a trick or a way to make the railroad company cooperate, we're gonna come back to them, because I'd love to have the capacity of the 54-inch pipe, because we move
Right,
the water.
right, good, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Last year, when it came to the met at the meeting, the price doubled to $3 million. So now we agreed to split it in half.
And
two
half
stages.
ended up being a little more than half, but.
But that's fine. But
yeah.
what I'm getting at is, so that at that time we were in an agreement that we're going underneath the railroad track. So now we're no longer doing that. So we're gonna take a larger pipe and attach it to.
We're gonna go up to that 30-inch, and then
To the
there'll be a
30-inch?
basin that it'll run into, and then it'll go through the 30-inch pipe. And the engineers checked all of that. That's something that we can do.
It will work.
It will work. It won't move as much more as
No.
I'd like it to, but
Right.
it will
but
work,
it's
and it
gonna-
certainly will help.
It's gonna help. Is what I'm
Yeah.
getting.
Certainly.
At least gonna give some relief.
Certainly.
Okay. All right. This question I have.
Good. Any further?
I have a comment.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just want to say, of course, that's my district, and it's been a long time coming, and I'm so happy that eventually, in the very near future, the people in that area will be getting some relief from flooding. Because it's been a long time coming.
It has. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Deidre, we've been working on this a couple of years, and we waited to see to give you the opportunity to take the credit.
Don't tell her people that.
We don't want to say that.
That's awesome. Any further discussion? Please vote your machines. Thank y'all. Yeah, great. Yeah. Thank you. Madam Clerk, item 6.
Introduction of ordinance to be set for public hearing on March 20th, 2018. An introduction of an ordinance to enter into a right-of-way in servitude for distribution systems with CenterPoint Energy Resources Corp., DBA CenterPoint Energy Louisiana Gas, and authorizing the mayor to execute this right-of-way agreement and any additional documents that he deems appropriate to accomplish the foregoing.
Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Swear, second. Councilman Lewis, and I'd like to explain this one. The bridge at Briarwood is being replaced. Lo and behold, there's a main gas line attached to the bridge, okay? So the bridge is a parish project, but that gas line services residents in College Park and, our residents. So we have to reroute the gas line so that they can proceed with the project. The only place we could find, and this is CenterPoint Energy, they go out, they found a property owner on Lewis Street that would let them come through their property, and they asked to come through our park. So they'll come through the park, promising me, we know that the community has just done a ton of work on that park. Mr. Broussard was very involved in that, along with Parish Councilman Warren Goshese and the whole neighborhood. They've got the park looking good. CenterPoint promises that it will be returned to the way it looks now. I can tell you if it isn't, Public Works is gonna go and return it to how it looks now. But we're gonna stay on CenterPoint, but they need a right-of-way. So the bridge project is being held up. It takes us 2 meetings, government doesn't move fast, it takes us 2 meetings to do an ordinance. So I brought it this meeting, we'll pass it next meeting, so that CenterPoint can go through the park, run their line, and then the parish's bridge project can get back underway. That's kind of what we're trying to do here. So anyway, just to explain, that's why I'm coming for this ordinance. Any discussion? No discussion? Please vote your machines. Thank you all very much. Jimmy, Madam Clerk, item 7.
Property standards, revisit demolition of property located at 820 and a half Field Street, New Iberia.
Anyone here?
Anybody here for this property?
He's not here tonight, but I did speak with him over the phone hours before this meeting. He is in the process of chopping up the wood. He's had jury duty, I think it was, recently. And I told him that I would like to see the rest of that wood chopped up within the next 15 to 30 days. He's going to contact me once that's done. But I did talk with him about the structural damage that you and I had spoke about, and that's on this sheet. I don't know what your recommendations for that.
Well, he's got jury duty.
Yes, he has jury duty right now.
Give him another 90 days. That would be fine.
And that's kind of what I thought of as well. So again, we agreed that 15 to 30 days he's going to contact me about the rest of that wood being chopped up, because I don't foresee it continuing to sit on the ground no more than another 15 to 30 days. And then for the structural damage, is there any other damage that we need to be addressed in?
Well, you can see right there the
the foundation.
Yeah. Oh, wrong way.
Right.
See how the back end is leaning?
Right, we
Evidently,
talked about that.
Evidently, when the tree fell,
Yes, sir.
it shifted it on the foundation.
Yes, sir.
So
So he also told me concerning I asked him about that as well. And after the tree is cut within 15 to 30 days, he's going to be soliciting an estimate for the structural damage to see how much that's going to cost him.
that's good.
So-
Let's revisit in 90 days.
Yes, sir.
So that's a motion?
That's a motion to revisit this property in 90 days.
Thank you very much. Do I have a
Thank
second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Lewis. Please vote your machines. Great, thank you. See you in 90 days. 7B.
Revisit demolition of property located at 514 East Persian Street, New Iberia.
Anybody here for that property?
She called me this afternoon.
Okay.
She couldn't leave her mother, but she knows it needs to come down. She's waiting on her tax return. She's supposed to go file this week. So, I don't know what y'all want to do.
And just to be clear again, that gas situation, that is disconnected,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, and what's her plan about,
She wants to tear it down. She
right?
says it can't stay like it is.
Correct.
She
And I
understands
just
that.
want everyone to know that I'm continuing to get calls about that same house every month,
Oh, yeah.
every time for the last few months. So hopefully
Yeah.
we can. Just,
Well.
I'm kind of tired of getting those.
They
same
plan on
calls.
tearing it down themselves?
Yes.
That's the plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
That's-
sir.
Okay. That's a
She's waiting
plus.
on a tax refund.
We have a timeline,
a
Mr.
plus.
Jimmy, that we
She told me in 2 weeks she should have her money.
Yes,
So,
sir. Okay,
you know, 30 days doesn't give me time to get the letter back.
so 90,
I could
60,
go 60.
60,
Yeah.
because it got to come down.
Right. So that's a motion for 60 days?
That is a motion for 60 days to
Thank you.
revisit this property.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Dahl. Please vote your machines.
I think I might have hit it twice. Does that matter?
Thank you. No, it's okay.
Okay.
Double the vote.
That'd be good for next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give him some extra days. No, pick. Thank y'all. All right, Kevin.
Financial reports, November 1, 2017 through November 30th, 2017, budget to actual comparisons by Kevin Zarang, City Treasurer.
Evening, Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To answer the first question
Yeah.
on the fund balance,
Oh, yeah. Thank
the drainage fund has a fund balance of 4.4 million.
you. Okay. That's after this project or before?
That's before, as of
Before, that's
now.
what I thought. Okay. I knew we'd have one.
Okay. So what I'm presenting to you today is the budget to actual as of the end of November. November is the first period, so we have 1 month out of 12, which is 8% of the budget. So we're going to start off with the first line, legislation, which is the council. Budgeted to spend 101,000, we spent 10.5 thousand, leaving us at using up 10.41% of our budget to date. City Court budgeted to bring in 28,000. As of today, we have not brought any in. Budgeted to spend 219,000. To date, they've spent 21,000, leaving them at 9.64% of their budget. Legal, which is city prosecutor, bring in 16.3 thousand. They've brought in 0. Expenses, 123,000. They've spent 14,000. They're at 11.6% of their budget. Administration, bring in 25,000. They brought in $2. This is mainly permits for parades, and we've collected 1 permit. So they're at 0.01% of their budget. For expenses, 461,000. They've used 53.952% of their budget, which means they have spent 11.71% of the budget. What I'd like to point out on some of these where the expenses are high, and I'll point them out as we go, it's because at the beginning of the fiscal year, we incur the whole cost. It's not a cost that we're going to incur ratably over the 12 months. City Hall occupancy, to spend 178,000. They spent 16,000. They've used up 9.1% of their budget. Cliff Oakland building, spend $980. We have not spent anything on it to date, so it's 1% of the budget. Insurance, to spend $23,000. We've spent $28,000. We are at 12.58% of our budget. Finance is to bring in $4.3 million. We've brought in $134,000. We are at 3% of our budget. Expenses, $574,000. We've spent $91,000. What I'd like to point out on the finance, majority of that is $1.7 million of franchise fees that we generally receive at the end of the fiscal year. So that's why we've only received 3 point. On the same thing on the expenses, that includes a one-time computer update, and that also includes the tax roll for the year, which is incurred in the first month. Municipal civil service, to spend $87,000, they spent $9,000. They're at 10.67% of their budget. Police and civil service, $2.5 thousand. They've spent $171. They were at 6.68% of the budget. Planning and zoning, to bring in $17.6 thousand. They've spent, and they brought in $450,000. Majority of that funding is reimbursements on grants that we basically, we receive that as we incur the expense. For expenses, $108,362. They've spent $55,000 for a utilization of 50.68%. That is mainly due to the $45,000 we have incurred to date on the church alley that we are currently waiting for the reimbursements. Nonprofit, budgeted $16,000. We've spent close to $3,000, leaving us at 18.36. That's mainly due because we have paid the veterans allotment at the beginning of the year. Police department, to bring in $6.4 million. We brought in $533. We are at 8.28% of our budget. On spending, $6.6 million. We've spent $558,000. So we are at 8.4% of the budget. Fire department, bring in $2.2 million. They spent $20,000. They are at 0.8% of their budget. Expenditures, spend $4.9 million. They've spent $482,000. They are at 9.75% of their budget. Inspections, permits, and compliance, to bring in $203,000. They brought in $25,000. They are at 12.58% of their budget. Expenses, $326,000. They've spent $31,000. They are at 9.39% of their budget. Slyman, bring in $18,000. They brought in $1,000, so they're at 6.53% of their budget. Expenses of $19,000. They spent $1,000, so they're at 5.47% of their budget. Transfers, those are done monthly, so we are at 8.3% on transfers in and 8.3% at transfers out, leaving us overall for the general fund to bring in $15 million. We've brought in $857,000, so we are at 5.67% of the budget on revenue. We were budgeted to spend $16 million. We've spent $1.6, so we are at 9.61% of our budget. Parks and Recreation, bring in $1.2 million. They brought in $100,000, leaving them at 8.16% of their budget on revenue. Spending 1.2 budget, actual 106, they're at 8.23% of their budget. Public Works, bring in $2.7 million. They brought in $199,000. They're at 7.3% of their budget. Expenditures of $2.8 million. They've spent $203,000. They're at 7.21% of their budget. Sales tax fund, we were budgeting $8 million. We brought in $611,000, so we are currently at 7.52% of our sales tax revenue. Spending, which is the transfers out to the different departments, $8,700,000. We spent $719,000, so we're at 8.25% of the budget. Garbage, bring in $4.5 million. We brought in $351,000, so we're at 7.75% of the budget. Spending of $4.6 million. We spent $382,000. we are at 8.27% of our budget. Section 8, bring in 1.3 million. They've brought in 77. They're at 6.18% of their budget. Budgeted to spend 1.3 million. They've brought in 111,000. They have spent 8.65% of their budget. Wastewater, budgeted to bring in 5.2 million. They brought in 392,000. They are at 7.53% of their budget. Spending, 4.5 million. They spent 431,000. They are at 9.54% of their budget. And that is it for November. We will follow up with December in the next meeting. Any questions?
Hey, what's the story on the fire department income? And that's a big number.
Their income is sales tax revenue. And they have dedicated taxes, the revenue.
They just not collected during that period? Is that what went on?
What we projected to bring in has exceeded what we've actually brought in to date. In the past, we have provided, at the beginning of each month, we provide you a sales tax analysis report, and it will be reflected in there.
0.87%.
Based on what we're looking at with the other numbers.
I can look into it, and if you'd like, I can send you all an email, or I can give you the results at the next council meeting.
Cool.
Or if you want to come by, you can sit down with me, we can go through it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Item 9, items for discussion. We don't have any. I'll take that one. Madam Clerk, item 10.
Council remarks.
We'll go around the table, starting with Natalie.
I just have one. The Star Pilgrim Baptist Church has a Black History program this Sunday at 9. And I'm making a point to announce this because I found something out really wonderful about that church this week that humbled me and made me so proud of my community, which I already am. But in planning for their Black History Month program, they're going to honor some local people in town, and they invited one of my good friends, Panat Zanamine, to also be recognized during this event. Now, if you hear the name Panat Zanamine, you would probably recognize that it's not an African-American name, but he resides in the heart of the community, and he gives back to them, and I just thought it was so beautiful of that church to include him. So, if anyone wants to go see that, that's Sunday at 9.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I can, I'm going to stand a minute and pay homage to some of our leaders that preceded me. In 1975, the Iberia Alliance for Change sat together around the table and decided to help reappropriate the district so that they can have a black city councilman, someone to represent that area. And at that time, the councilman elect in 1976, who was deceased, was the Honorable Tyrone Charles, who was a friend of my family. Also, he was a mentor to me. He also was my 8th grade English teacher. And he taught us black history. And I wanted to honor him and recognize him. Also, I wore this shirt for a reason. The new struggle is not white against black. It's black against black. Crime in our communities. We're killing each other. I'm asking these young men to cease fighting, start living, to make a better community. It is time that we pick up our pants and open our minds so that we can change our communities. It is our job to change our community. I didn't run for city council for a check. I ran to change the community in which I was raised and reared in. And I know I have a good council to support, and people like Pastor Zach with the prayer marches. All those things are going to have to work. But that is what I wanted to do tonight under councilman remarks. Didn't want to put it under agenda item. Since this is the last meeting for Black History Month, I want to recognize the people that came before me. And I better not forget my Aunt Peggy, who was the first African-American female to sit on the city council.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you.
You might have said that first.
Just so you said. Just so you said.
The only thing, we have a couple businesses downtown, restaurants that's been changing names and that, I'm not gonna mention. But support the local restaurants in New Iberia, especially downtown. You know, it's not always in a path like some people or the traffic they have sometime on Amador, the inconvenience of that you coming in for lunch. But believe it or not, these restaurants downtown and close right off of the street, you can get in and out pretty quick. So please support them because they are struggling against some of these main restaurants that can move you in a little quicker. Maybe you can take a couple more minutes out your day and go support those restaurants, and because that's what makes New Iberia and Main Street what it is today. Thank you.
I also want to announce a Black History program. We are having a Black History program sponsored by Gardu Court number 129. It's the auxiliary, constituent court to the and an auxiliary of the Shriners, Prince Hall affiliation. And in conjunction with the Iberia Parish chapter of the NAACP, we're doing a combined Black History Tea. It's an annual event. It will be Sunday also at 3:00 p.m. at the Olive Branch Masonic Lodge on Ann Street, corner of Ann and Arlene. The admission is $5. Refreshments will be served and all. And this year we're honoring, I'm one of the honorees this year, and a fellow educator from Baldwin, Dr. Catherine Drexler, and also another educator from Verdonville, Dr. Sharon Brown. So it'll be 3 ladies this year. And come on out and help us. And also, not to leave anybody out, our featured speaker will be none other than the Honorable Sherry Guidry, Councilwoman for District 5. So come out and support us. Our mayor should be there possibly.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
I was gonna put him on the spot too.
And when I announced the MLK program, I did send invitations to the council. I sent to the parish council. I sent to the school board. I sent to the schools and all. And like I said, I was disappointed that we had one non-African American at the activity, and it was our mayor. You know, we need to celebrate together. It's not just a black thing, you know. Yes, we celebrate African American people, but everybody's a part of this community, and I would like, you know, some of our majority people in the community to come on out. Then nothing's gonna hurt you down on Ann Street, you know. Yeah, take a chance and come on out.
Take a chance.
Nothing's gonna happen, but take a chance.
Don't go together. Take a chance. Nothing's gonna hurt you. Take a chance.
That was good.
Maybe I misspoke that. No, but you know, we're down there all the time, so come on out.
Yeah.
And support and celebrate Black History Month with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank again Pastor Zach Mitchell and Missionary for being here and their efforts. And they also contacted me about joining efforts with me for the Tight and Right Cleanup Initiative. And again, that's March the 17th at 10:30 a.m. in the downtown area. And again, take a chance. It's on Ann Street as well. And I'm looking forward to this. Our base camp will be there that morning. And again, it's going to be prayer, fellowship. We're going to be fighting against litter abatement, and also door prizes, food and fun and fellowship. And of course, music. So please come out and support our efforts with that. It's going to be my first one, so I'm looking forward to your help. Also, too, Sheds Hope is doing a teen dating violence awareness visual on Main Street in the Bouillonnet Plaza Thursday, February the 22nd at 5:30, and they're calling on all teens and parents. Teen dating violence is real, and it is right here in Iberia Parish, and they're asking you to come out and learn the signs and what you can do about it. And of course, I will be opening us up in prayer. Also too, let's see, New Iberia Irish men will be marching on March the 10th, right? I think the theme is turning the Bayou Country Green.
Yeah, they'll turn the fountain green again.
Yes, sir. And the celebration is at the New Iberia Civic Center fountain, and local dignitaries, members of the New Iberia Fire Department, the Berry Queens, and participants of the Special Olympics and members of the committees of Acadiana will gather to see our mayor, Freddie DeCourt, open the valve to once again turn the water in the fountain Irish green. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
You gonna wear the little outfit you wore last year?
Oh,
He
no.
wore an outfit?
Yeah, well,
Oh, I missed that.
I don't mean to rain on your parade, Miss
You
Gidget,
wore
but
an
that was funny. Yeah. I don't mean to rain on your parade, but you said March 17th is the Titan, right? So how about after y'all, the initiative, y'all come over to the Festival Live Oaks and have y'all some good barbecue?
I'm glad you said that. I was going to say that. Go to the Titan Right Initiative at 10:30 in the morning, and then go to the Live Oak Festival at,
It's at, well, it starts, actually begins at 10. 9:30 music starts.
but don't y'all have something like at
music
5
starts,
or
but actually the cook-off
yeah, at
lasts-
5.
Actually, the whole festival lasts until 3 o'clock.
There you go.
So how many teams do you have so far cooking? Well, I'm gonna put the mayor on the spot. Did you
Get
say you
put
were
on the
putting in
spot a lot.
Last time
tonight
we
is the
talked
night.
about trying to know
I know.
that we were gonna cook.
I know, we need to.
Well, y'all be
City
cooking against
council?
me then.
Huh.
So I'll be 6?
I know how to cook.
I know how to cook.
I know,
Okay, well,
you're
that's
gonna be
7.
at the Titan Right.
7?
I'm
Hey.
leaving the Titan right now.
But no,
Come
on a
cook.
serious note, I wish we,
I got a lot of
Mr.
energy.
Doyle was saying, you know, supporting the community. Let's get out and support the festivals as well, too.
That's right.
This is one that, you know, we try to do the best we can with the parks and rec that we have and really do with what we have. So this is one that benefits it, and let's just bring as many people as you can. Ms. Gidget.
I sure will.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Great. Thank y'all. Jim, you want to run through those properties? Can you do it real quick? Yeah. All right, we're trying one new thing. Civic Source, trying to sell those wonderful pieces of property. Jimmy's going to show you the
I
7
got
that
9
we-
properties.
the
that are
latest
on
we have. Roll
Demo
quick.
list. So,
Yeah, they're on the demo list, but they're also with Civic Source.
We're
so
with
we'd like to
Civic
try to sell them.
so take a chance.
So take a chance.
We can't give them?
All right, 105 Field, 505 Doré Alley, 525 Sylvan,
No.
534 Lafayette Street, 801 Francis, 625 Emery Lewis, 634 Abar, 711 Rosalie, and 807 Bush Alley. That was it.
We're trying. So, like I said, they're on the demo list. We don't have the money to demo them right now, and so Civic Source is willing to handle them. So we're trying to, you know, very cheap investment. Take a chance. Our next meeting is March the 6th, and I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Thank y'all very much.